I invite you to tie onto my rope and to join me on a mountaineering odyssey. Because I was in that kind of weedy, nerdy set at school, I never felt particularly good about myself. I was sliding around on the peat and the turf, not having a particularly good time. I developed these huge blisters, and it was raining and a bit of hail. But as time went on, I actually found that I could do this. I thought, well, actually, I don't mind it's hurting and it's sore, because the environment was outstanding. What I found out was that resilience is in our DNA. We are completely wired to deal with adversity, but we've forgotten. We've forgotten about it because our lives have become so comfortable. And we grow up thinking, oh, life's supposed to be easy, but it's not. Life isn't supposed to be easy. We actually thrive in adversity. So for me, it was like discovering my superpower. It was just before my 16th birthday, and as soon as I left the ground on that climb, I knew that that was what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to climb. I wanted to climb rocks, and maybe one day perhaps even climb a mountain. In order to climb properly, you need partner. You have to have someone to tie onto the rope with. We sort of egged each other on, and we wanted to climb harder and harder all the time, and we fell off lots of things, and the rope always caught us, but we egged each other on, and we got up some pretty good climbs. And once we climbed one, we just wanted to climb more and more, and the climbs each time, of course, got harder and harder. We didn't really think too much about how dangerous it was. We just wanted to do it. So we are 2,000 feet up the side of this mountain. I climbed up to Chris, and he is hanging off 2 ice screws, and he hasn't been able to get them in very far. He's hanging off 2 slings off these things, and they're going boing. And all the time in the back of my head, Chris is saying, don't fall off, don't fall off. And I'm wobbling up this piece of ice. What I should have done was done the work to get the placements in. But I took a shortcut, and as I pulled the other axe out, the ice crack that I was hanging from exploded, and I went over backwards, and I'm falling. Hit the ice on my forearms, and I'm sliding down, and the wind is rushing in through the ears. I've let go of my axes, and they're on their wrist tethers, and they're bouncing around like maddened dogs as I'm flying down right past Chris. There was no shadow of a doubt that I was going to rip the belay, and we were both going to fall 2,000 feet to our death. I knew that that was going to happen. So obviously it didn't. We didn't pull the belay, and those 2 rickety ice screws held. Because I'd done all these other climbs, I'd been to the Himalayas before, climbed the Eiger, etc. I got a place on an Everest expedition. And now, this is 1988, and it was a couple of New Zealand guides, and they were there with their clients. I had never heard of such a thing, but I was massively inspired, and I just had this feeling that, do you know what, that I think is a huge opportunity, a massive opportunity, and maybe I should take it. And then I thought, I can do this, so I went out on my own. So off we go to Mount Everest. This is the 1990 equivalent of viral. It was in newspapers all over the world. It was in the Johannesburg Times, the South China Daily, the Los Angeles Times. It just went everywhere. So the pressure was on, and I really felt that pressure. Beautiful blue skies, virtually no wind. It even felt slightly warm. So that's me on the summit. I've taken my mask off because I've already run out. I've run out of oxygen, and I'm on the summit of Everest. I've run out of oxygen before. I've ground to a halt and collapsed when my oxygen has run out. But this day on Everest, I seem to be fine. And there's Ramon Blanco on the summit of Everest, the oldest person by 5 years to have ever climbed it. At the bottom of the hilly step, Ramon ran out of oxygen, and he collapsed, and he couldn't move. Coming down the ropes comes a Spanish climber with his Sherpa. They weren't even on our climb. I didn't know they were going to be there, and they just appeared. So this Spanish climber, Juanito, gives Ramon his oxygen saves his life. And apart from of course, the obvious, huge tragedy, of losing a client, Jagged Globe would never have existed. So I never told anybody about it. In the meantime, I went on with Jagged Globe and had this wonderful life.
Hats off to his courage. Appreciate your honesty and integrity and your courage to share that with us, because that took quite a bit to share with us.
Because it wasn't a fictional story of all the good bits. This was real. It was real. It was warts and all.
Thanks, Steve, for the presentation. Yeah, enjoyed it. Really loved it.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Steve. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it and I took a lot away from it. Thank you.
Just great to see, like someone with such a big history.
Beautifully, wonderfully long career trajectory, and I guess all of the trials and trepidations that he went through to get to the successes that he ultimately showed us that he enjoyed.